How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Crypto Clout. I am your host, FaZe Crypto, and today we have a very interesting topic. We're really going to be covering some of the elements that are going to be really significant in regards to what has been called a really big paradigm shift happening across the board on all levels of society. Ultimately, cryptocurrency is at the center of this, and today I think that it will be beneficial to focus in on two specific cryptocurrencies that are ultimately positioning themselves to fully capitalize and really leverage the potential that's in store for cryptocurrencies in this changing environment where we're starting to see a lot of different openings in a lot of various different levels of society that we probably wouldn't have considered before, actually taking a really big interest in the cryptocurrency blockchain related technologies. And ultimately, I think that we're a lot further along than some people might think. Generally, when we think about cryptocurrency household names, of course, Bitcoin came on the scene and ultimately had a lot of publicity over this past couple of years, year and a half to be precise. And of course, visiting its all-time highs was really something that sent a notification to everybody's brain, letting them know that something is up. But ultimately, it seems as if Ripple is following suit when it comes to that same media attention and public attention, because Ripple has really ingeniously marketed itself in a way that's really got it alongside the paradigm shift that we were witnessing happening involving the digital gold in Bitcoin. Now, moving forward, we're seeing Ripple really with the way that it's managed to get its hooks into pop culture and a lot of various other elements. It seems as if Ripple, and along with the establishment with it, are really moving forward and things are really coming together in a really significant way. I understand there's a lot of haters out there when it comes to Ripple, people who criticize the technology for being so closely aligned with the establishment, and they cite sort of an old guard philosophical idea about cryptocurrencies. But all that essentially goes to the side when we think about what's going to be worth what in the future. That's what's interesting to me. I care about money. I care about the fact that Ripple is going to be, that it's really positioning itself with these various different similar household names like, Apple, and you name it, these various different technology literate companies that have aligned themselves with a cryptocurrency of choice. And that's sort of embodied by Ripple XRP. And as we continue to move forward, we'll witness similar developments happening along the lines of this potential. So ultimately, Ripple is one of those technologies that I'm definitely paying attention to moving forward. And of course, when it comes to Ripple, people bring up the nature of Ripple and XRP. But ultimately, moving forward, I think that the relationship that has evolved between the two will ultimately play to Ripple's favor as we continue to move forward. And essentially, any cryptocurrency in the top 100 is due for a significant overhaul in the long term. When we think about years like 2019, the applications are endless, and the fact that Ripple is really leveraging this global thing, this global nation, it's international, and that's of course the one of the few things that really is the top 10, I would say, for a few of these technologies. I mean, cryptocurrency is, essentially what it makes possible is the fact that somebody in Zimbabwe can have can send Ripple to somebody in Canada, and it really is instant. So it's totally a complete overhaul of what we had been used to. And ultimately, another cryptocurrency, the number two one that I wanted to talk about today, in no particular order, is Tron, because Tron and Ripple are ultimately, they're similar in significant ways, but I can really illustrate this point by talking about, say, Litecoin, and just look at the failure that was LitePay. And ultimately, what this boils down to is who's going to go into a Starbucks and buy a coffee using Litecoin. Ultimately, the USD the euro, these various different these very, obviously the currencies that have already established themselves are clearly dominating. And of course, I like my Litecoin because it's plugged into the entire network of cryptocurrency. So if all of a sudden we see a huge bull run happening for Bitcoin, it's likely we'll see that reflected in Litecoin. So me personally, I do like my Litecoin. But ultimately, I do have to come to terms with the fact that it's cryptocurrencies leveraging different uses in society that are ultimately going to be the ones that are at the helm of this paradigm shift that we're seeing. And which is what brings me to the point that when I look at this list of cryptocurrencies on here, I always think to myself, what are these technologies actually doing in the real world that's going to really have actual usage and inside of a developing industry that has or any sort of industry, and basically the way that they are positioning themselves. And Tron, fundamentally, I think is one of those technologies that's, as far as the greater evolution of the internet goes, we're starting to see the decline of the old style of social media, with Facebook having so many problems, and of course YouTube messing with their notifications and really leaving their user base unsatisfied with the product. So a more decentralized approach, which essentially gives more power to the algorithmic significance of the audience and so forth, what people want to watch. I think that Tron and decentralized media and the decentralized internet altogether definitely has that key leverage on its side as far as we are moving forward. And I know Ripple has been criticized before when it comes to the question of centralized versus decentralized, but ultimately Ripple is making steps in the long term to become more decentralized. So I wouldn't hold it to Ripple's fault in that regard. It's basically the way that the establishment is seeking to approach the current dynamics that are taking place involving the greater atmosphere of cryptocurrencies as they currently exist. But I mean, just looking at the news regarding Ripple, it is interesting here is how Ripple will change the financial system. And it's awesome to see that the news articles on here are talking about the paradigm shift that's happening and the complete and total shift that we're seeing happening on all different levels of society. And of course, it's going to take time, but not very much time. I would say by 2020, we'll start to see these things on the forefront of the public conversation that's happening. And that's not very far away. So as far as Tron and the decentralized web goes, I mean, we've seen technologies like Steam with DTube, and we've seen that they work, and we've seen that they have the potential to function. So moving forward, I think especially when we consider that Tron just had a successful mainnet and all these various different things coming together, it is interesting. And of course, looking at the global market cap where it is at 346 billion, I mean, there is a long way to go. We are pretty early in the cryptocurrency game right here. So of course, definitely take advantage of being this early in the game, and of course take your time and do your research because there are some really interesting things that have been happening involving the greater evolution of society in the light of the applications of the internet really being plugged into various different things that people and it's unprecedented to a large extent. So looking at the news regarding Tron, I would say I was looking at the roadmap. I always pay attention to because my understanding of Tron and Ripple is fundamentally data driven, and I think that looking at the timeline that's in store for Tron, we really could be seeing some interesting things developing in the long term. But I think that I mean, if you were to get my personal opinion, I would say Ripple has the potential to be bigger than Amazon. I think that as we continue to move forward, these smart technologies leveraging cryptocurrency and of course Bitcoin along with it. I'm not knocking Bitcoin entirely. However, I'm just saying that these altcoins are indefinitely going to see a rise to prominence. So it's definitely worth your time to do some research. But of course, if you're interested in connecting with us, you can always do so on our Twitter, and I'll actually be including a link to Twitter down in the description. We actually have a new Twitter, which is more of a community-based approach to this social social media family that we've been growing on here. But if you guys are interested, the link to Crypto Clout's Twitter will actually be down in the description. So send us any information that you have regarding these technologies. It's always interesting to hear different people's opinions when it comes to these things. And of course, remember, this video is for educational purposes only, for entertainment purposes only. And the whole purpose of this is just to share my opinion regarding these technologies. And remember, this is not financial advice. This video is for entertainment purposes, like I said. And so, just standard disclaimer. I think the community is pretty well aware of this, but I think it's important for people to hear that you need to do your own research. Remember, I'm not your dad. At the end of the day, when it comes to these technologies, you got to make your own decision. And of course, a lot of people do criticize Ripple for its total supply. That's a pretty large number right there. And of course, the max supply, of course, and circulating supply. So there are a lot of different variables that you need to take into consideration. But in the interest of hearing different people's opinions on the subject of Tron, I've actually found a really interesting video right here by Patrick, and I'll actually be including a link to his content down in the description below. So if you guys are interested in following up this viewing experience by watching another 15-minute video regarding Tron, and he actually talks about Ripple in his content as well. So I'll be including a link to that video. Shouts out to him. You guys should definitely subscribe. He's a really good content creator. And yeah, all that being said, I hope you guys have enjoyed this content. Remember, if you're interested in connecting with us, you can do so through the new Twitter. And yeah, all that being said, I think it's important to share different opinions, so make sure that you include any comments down below telling us what you think about either of these technologies. You think we're on the right track here? But yeah, all that being said, remember to do your research, and I'll see you guys in the next content. Have a good one.